The stone walls of Britain's ancient royal residences have witnessed centuries of calculated silence, carefully managed triumphs, and deep fractures that rarely spill into the public eye without heavy curation. For years, the physical and emotional distance separating the House of Windsor from its self-exiled branch in California has seemed almost absolute, marked by a quiet but unyielding estrangement that transformed once frequent cross-continental journeys into rare, tense diplomatic events. Yet, beneath the formal statements and the relentless scrutiny of the global press, a subtle shift has been quietly taking shape within the private corridors of power, driven by a deeply personal motivation that transcends institutional protocol. The public has grown accustomed to a narrative of permanent division, viewing the rift through the lens of televised interviews, revealing memoirs, and the rigid formalities of state occasions where proximity did not equal reconciliation. But history shows that the most significant turning points in the lives of reigning dynasties often occur far from the cameras, dictated not by grand public gestures, but by private negotiations and the inevitable passage of time. A fragile new understanding appears to be emerging from behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace, hinting at an upcoming event that could redefine the domestic dynamic of the royal family for the foreseeable future. This brewing development has capped the intense fascination of observers worldwide, who recognize that every minor logistical adjustment within this family carries profound symbolic weight and long-term consequences. As the details of an upcoming journey begin to surface, the atmosphere surrounding the monarchy is thick with anticipation, suggesting that a carefully engineered truce is finally underway after years of rigid separation. Before we delve into the intricate mechanics of this unfolding royal chapter and examine the hidden agreements making it possible, take a moment to subscribe to the channel to stay fully updated on every major international development as it happens. The story of this modern dynasty is constantly shifting, and understanding the deeper context requires a close look at the subtle olive branches that are currently being extended across the Atlantic Ocean. For nearly half a decade, the geographical separation between the monarch and his youngest grandchildren has served as a stark, visible reminder of the deep internal crisis that shook the institution to its core at the turn of the decade. The youngest generation of this fractured line has grown up thousands of miles away from the historic estates, castles, and traditions that define their paternal heritage. Isolated from the daily realities of the court, this prolonged absence has created a profound generational void, one that has weighed heavily on a family highly attuned to legacy, continuity, and the preservation of historical bonds. Observers have long speculated about what it would take to break this deadlock, given the immense legal, financials, and emotional barriers that have hardened over years of public and private grievances. The answer, it seems, lies in a series of highly confidential discussions that have quietly progressed over recent months, resulting in an unprecedented arrangement that few expected to see materialize so soon. It is a development that requires meticulous planning, absolute discretion, and a willingness to navigate the intense security and media challenges that accompany any movement of this specific family unit. The upcoming trip to the United Kingdom is no longer a mere theoretical possibility or a vague rumor dismissed by palace officials. It has rapidly transformed into a concrete logistical reality with major implications. For the first time in years, the physical distance will be closed, setting the stage for an encounter that will be scrutinized by millions around the globe for its every nuance and underlying meaning. The atmosphere is undeniably tense, yet filled with a distinct sense of momentum as the dates of this highly anticipated cross-pond journey approach. This chapter is not just about the return of a prince to his homeland, but about the carefully managed introduction of his young family to a world they have barely known since their infancy. The stakes are incredibly high for all parties involved, as the success or failure of this visit will likely dictate the trajectory of family relations for the next decade. Every detail, from the choice of residence to the specific security protocols being enacted, has been the subject of intense debate and high-level authorization behind palace walls. As we prepare to analyze the core of this monumental reunion in our upcoming segments, the groundwork has been laid for a narrative that balances the rigid weight of tradition with the deeply human complexities of a family trying to navigate its own internal fractures. The logistical realities of planning a royal family reunion of this magnitude require a level of precision that resembles a major state operation, especially when the participants have been living under a cloud of mutual distrust and intense security concerns for over half a decade. At the center of this developing situation is King Charles III, now 77 years old, who is reportedly overjoyed at the prospect of finally spending meaningful time with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's two young children, Prince Archie, now 7, and Princess Lilibet, now 5. This highly anticipated encounter marks a profound milestone, as the children have not set foot on British soil since 2022, a 4-year absence that has effectively insulated them from their royal heritage and the broader family circle. Sources close to the situation have confirmed that a definitive agreement has been reached between the monarch and his youngest son, an understanding that directly addresses the core anxieties that have kept the California-based family unit away for so long. For years, the primary obstacle preventing any such visit was the contentious issue of security, a complex legal and bureaucratic battle that began when the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were stripped of their official taxpayer-funded security privileges upon stepping down from their senior royal duties in 2020. Prince Harry has consistently maintained that without official state protection, bringing his wife and young children to the United Kingdom poses an unacceptable risk, a stance that led to a protracted legal petition against the British government. Even after offering to personally cover the financial costs of professional state security, his appeals were systematically rejected by the courts, creating a seemingly insurmountable deadlock that threatened to permanently sever the children's physical connection to their grandfather. However, the reigning monarch has taken a direct and decisive role in breaking this impasse by personally organizing and authorizing comprehensive security arrangements for the family unit during their upcoming stay next month. This intervention by the king represents a massive concession and a significant logistical undertaking, ensuring that the family will be housed within a secure royal residence where their safety can be strictly managed by establishment protocols. By offering a secure royal estate as their base, the king has effectively neutralized the primary argument against the trip, extending a crucial olive branch that underscores his desperate desire to see his grandchildren, before the passage of time widens the generational gap even further. Yet, while the arrangements for Prince Harry and the children are firmly locked into place, an air of intense uncertainty still hovers over whether Meghan Markle will actually join her husband and children on this cross-Atlantic journey. The Duchess of Sussex has not traveled to the United Kingdom since September 2022, when she attended the state funeral of the late Queen Elizabeth II, an exceptionally tense period that highlighted the profound emotional distance between herself and the rest of the royal institution. Her potential absence from this upcoming reunion adds a layer of sharp narrative tension to the entire event, suggesting that while a paternal truce is being engineered, a total reconciliation remains a distant and highly complicated prospect. The backdrop to this impending reunion is a years-long period of bitter estrangement, fueled by a series of highly public and damaging disclosures that deeply wounded the royal household. The relationship between Prince Harry and his father deteriorated significantly after a succession of high-profile media appearances, including an explosive televised interview and a multi-part documentary series, which culminated in the 2023 release of his raw and uncompromising memoir, titled Spare. The book laid bare the deeply entrenched dysfunctions, internal rivalries, and institutional coldness that Harry claimed defined his upbringing, creating a massive public relations crisis for the palace and deeply hurting his immediate family. While King Charles has signaling a distinct willingness to rise above these past grievances for the sake of his grandchildren, the attitude of other key family members remains a major source of friction and speculation. Specifically, the relationship between Prince Harry and his elder brother Prince William, the Prince of Wales, remains frozen in a state of absolute hostility, with insiders indicating that William has shown virtually no interest in burying the hatchet or participating in any family reconciliation during this visit. The contrast between the father's desire for connection and the brother's rigid stance creates a highly fractured environment, meaning that the upcoming trip will have to be navigated with extreme care to avoid explosive confrontations or public embarrassments. Buckingham Palace has predictably maintained a strict policy of no comment regarding these private family matters. But the physical preparations currently underway speak louder than any formal press release. The stakes are incredibly high, as this visit represents the first time since the tumultuous events of 2022 that the young Sussex children will interact with the reigning monarch in his own environment. The tension building up to next month's arrival is palpable across the entire royal ecosystem as staff, security details, and family members prepare for a historic encounter that could either lay the foundation for a permanent peace or cement the divisions that have come to define this modern era of the British monarchy. Every movement, every security motorcade, and every choice of residence will be parsed for meaning by a global audience eager to see if this ancient dynasty can truly heal its self-inflicted wounds. The profound significance of this impending cross-Atlantic reunion extends far beyond the immediate emotional relief of a grandfather longing to see his young grandchildren, touching upon the very survival, continuity, and public perception of the modern British monarchy. For King Charles III, whose path to the throne was the longest preparation in the history of the British crown, the twilight years of his life and the early chapters of his historic reign have been undeniably complicated by these agonizing domestic fractures. As a monarch who has spent decades studying the intricate balance between institutional duty and human vulnerability, he is acutely aware that the ultimate strength of a dynasty lies not merely in its ancient crown jewels, stately pageants, or legal decrees, but in the visible continuity of a stable, united, and supportive family unit. His relationship with his other grandchildren, the children of the Prince and Princess of Wales, has been marked by daily proximity, shared public milestones, and a careful integration into the fabric of British state tradition, making the total isolation of Prince Harry's children an increasingly painful anomaly that he was determined to resolve before it became permanent. By stepping in personally to resolve the high-stakes security gridlock that the government apparatus could not fix, the king has demonstrated that his role as the patriarch of the family can coexist with his supreme responsibilities as the head of state, utilizing royal properties to create a safe haven where private healing can occur away from the relentless glare of international media attention. This calculated act of paternal generosity is a monumental shift from the unyielding institutional rigidity that characterized the palace's initial response to the events of 2020. Signaling a deeper realization that time is a finite commodity and that the long-term legacy of his reign will be heavily judged by his ability to foster peace within his own household. To fully understand the gravity of this upcoming encounter, one must examine the extraordinary and unprecedented lives of the two young children who are the focal point of this entire diplomatic effort. Prince Archie, who has now reached the age of 7, and Princess Lilibet, who is now 5, occupy a uniquely complicated position in the modern world, holding lofty royal titles while growing up completely immersed in the ultra-private, sun-drenched, and thoroughly American lifestyle of Montecito, California. Prince Archie spent only the earliest months of his infancy within the traditional royal ecosystem of Windsor, while Princess Lilibet was born entirely outside the United Kingdom, her only brief exposure to her paternal homeland occurring during the late Queen Elizabeth II's historic Platinum Jubilee celebrations in the summer of 2022. For these two young individuals, the grand castles, ancient history, and ceremonial traditions of the United Kingdom are not lived realities but distant abstract concepts, known only through the stories told by their parents and the occasional video call across multiple time zones. This prolonged geographical and cultural separation has created a profound historical detachment, meaning that their return to a secure British royal residence next month will be a surreal introduction to an ancient world that is rightfully part of their birthright, but entirely foreign to their daily experiences. The stark contrast between their private life in California, characterized by wide-open spaces, personal freedom and complete independence from royal protocol, and the heavily guarded, history-laden atmosphere of a British royal estate will present a fascinating psychological dynamic for the young family as they reconnect with the roots of their ancestry. The emotional architect of this highly complex journey remains Prince Harry, whose personal and professional trajectory over the last several years has been a dizzying whirlwind of intense public scrutiny, profound personal transformation, and deep institutional alienation. Born as the spare to the ultimate prize of the British crown, Harry spent his youth navigating the rigid constraints of royal expectation, finding temporary solace and a deep sense of purpose in his dedicated military service, which included frontline deployments that shaped his worldview and instilled a lifelong commitment to veteran welfare. His transition from a beloved high-ranking, working royal into an independent global media producer and philanthropist, alongside Meghan Markle, was driven by a powerful, deep-seated desire to carve out an autonomous existence and protect his immediate family from the immense, invasive pressures that he felt had tragically defined his own early life. However, the path to independence was paved with explosive public disclosures, including the publication of his raw, uncompromising memoir, which created a massive, seemingly permanent chasm between himself and the traditional establishment he left behind. Now, at 41 years old, the Duke of Sussex faces the profound realization that while his independent life in California offers the freedom and privacy he desperately sought, it has come at the steep cost of separating his children from their grandfather and their broader historical lineage. This upcoming visit represents a courageous, vulnerable, and deeply necessary step for the prince, who is willing to return to the very heart of the institution he challenged, in order to grant his children the opportunity to build a lasting relationship with the reigning monarch, as the countdown to next month's historic visit begins. The broader implications of this carefully managed truce are sending ripples through the entire royal ecosystem, offering a rare glimmer of hope for a family that has been defined by bitter division for nearly half a decade. While the path to a full, comprehensive reconciliation between all members of the family remains exceedingly steep, particularly given the total lack of communication and deep hostility between Prince Harry and Prince William. This private agreement between the king and his youngest son establishes a vital, workable blueprint for the future. It proves that despite the highly public grievances, legal battles, and deep emotional wounds of the past, the fundamental bonds of family can still cut through the thickest layers of institutional protocol and pride. The upcoming days spent behind the secure, high-walled sanctuaries of a royal estate will not be captured by television cameras or broadcast to a waiting world, but will instead unfold in the quiet, ordinary moments of a grandfather reading to his grandchildren, sharing stories of their ancestors, and reclaiming the precious time that geography and conflict had stolen away. This private sanctuary, carefully engineered by a 77-year-old monarch and accepted by his self-exiled son, may well become the defining turning point that allows this ancient dynasty to quietly heal its most painful modern wound, ensuring that the next generation is not forced to inherit the bitter disputes of the past. When the family unit finally touches down on British soil, the eyes of the world will remain fixed on the outer perimeter, but the true significance of the event will live in the quiet rooms where a fractured line begins the slow, delicate process of coming back together.